Hey guys, I want to talk about colons, and probably we should have done this before we did dashes, so you know what I mean when I say it can take the place of a colon. But these are all the ways you can use colons. So, in general, big general rule applies to all the grammatical uses of colons. Colons should only come after complete sentences. So, independent clause or complete sentence, colon. That's the only time you should see them when we're using them grammatically, right? So, use the colon to introduce a list. Again, only after a complete sentence. Y'all are mostly not using colons correctly when you do this. So, for example, Jim is a member of the following groups. We have an independent clause there. It's got a subject, it's got a verb, it doesn't leave us hanging, okay? Colon, drama club, debate team, football team. All right, so you can use it to introduce a list, only if you have an independent clause first. So don't just use a colon in the middle of a prepositional phrase or immediately after a verb, okay? Because you didn't have an independent clause. So, like, Mike is interested in, colon, chemistry, physics, and biology. You're not actually supposed to do that, okay? Same thing here. Mike's interests are, colon, chemistry, physics, and biology. Again, not supposed to do that because I can't just say Mike's interests are. That's not a complete sentence, okay? I can say, these are Mike's interests, colon, chemistry, physics, and biology. So even when you're using a colon to introduce a list, you have to have an independent clause first, okay? Now, use a colon to introduce a quote when there's a complete sentence before the quote. You know this one. We've talked about this one. A wrinkle in time uses repetition and alliteration. Complete sentence. Colon. And then we have our quote, right? Now, this one is in red because these are the situations where you usually use, where you can use a dash instead of the colon, okay? So use a colon in between two independent clauses when one clarifies or explains the first. So if you have an independent clause, and then you give me a second independent clause that's explaining that first independent clause, you know, clarifying something from that first independent clause, you can put a colon in between them, okay? So I have very little time to learn the language, colon, my new job starts in 5 weeks. So notice, this clause is explaining this clause, okay? A college degree is still worth something, colon. A recent survey revealed that college graduates earned roughly 60% more than those with only high school diplomas. Again, clarifying or explaining my first one. All right, next one, all three of their children are involved in the arts. And then we explain it more. Richard is a sculptor, Diane is a pianist, and Julie is a theater director. So in each of these situations, I had independent clause, colon, independent clause that's giving me more information about that first clause, okay? You can also use a colon after a complete sentence for emphasis, okay? So after 3 weeks of deliberation, the jury finally reached a verdict. So again, this is a complete sentence, but I want to like punch in at the end what that verdict is. So I would say colon, guilty, right? 5 continents, 3 dozen countries, over 100 cities, colon, this was the trip of a lifetime. All right, so that one's a little weird because we kind of reversed the order, but still used for emphasis. Okay, so these situations, also times we could have used a dash, okay? All right, now there's a lot of miscellaneous uses for colons that we're not going to spend a lot of time on. You put them in times. I hope that you know that at this point to put a colon in between, you know, the 1 or the 11 and 35 and 11:35 a.m. All right, you use them for ratios. You use them in some types of references, like when you're referencing a verse from the Bible. You use them. So you would say like the chapter verse number. You use them when you're separating the volume number and page numbers of like a scholarly journal, okay, which you can see there. All right, you also use them in correspondence, meaning when you're writing letters or emails to someone. So like, Dear Miss Smith, colon, CC, Tom Smith, attention, accounts payable. P.S. Don't forget your swimsuit. Okay, so those are just kind of random situations where you would also use a colon. Okay, we're going to do some practice with this tomorrow.